of the most successful entrepreneurs in America over the past 50 years is going public with his fourth and final prediction about a scenario he calls America's nightmare winter. You've probably never heard of Bill Bonner, but in addition to owning an interest in businesses all over the globe, he also owns more than 100,000 acres with massive properties in South America, Central America, the US, plus 3 large properties in Europe. Bonner says we're about to enter a very strange period in America, which could result in the most difficult times we've seen in many, many years. Bonner has made 3 similar predictions in his 50-plus year career, and each one proved to be exactly right, although he was mocked each and every time. This is why I strongly encourage you to read about Bonner's fourth and final prediction totally free today. It's all spelled out in a free report we've put together about America's nightmare winter scenario. Get the facts for yourself. Go to americasnightmarewinter.com to get your free copy of this report. Even if he's only partially right, it will dramatically affect you and your money. So again, go to americasnightmarewinter.com for this free report. Hi, this is Daniela Cambone, and welcome back to the Daniela Cambone Show. We are talking the latest news today. Crypto lender BlockFi filing for bankruptcy as the FTX fallout spreads. It's the latest in a series of crypto bankruptcies following, obviously, FTX, Voyager, and Celsius. Here to talk about this, the shakeup, and so much more, is Kevin O'Leary, star of ABC's Shark Tank. Kevin, always good to be with you. Welcome back. No shortage of news any of these days.
No, none at all. I mean, it's and to be expected. You know, this huge shock wave that went through the financial services industry. I don't consider it just crypto, but obviously the FTX collapse is going to have some peripheral damage, and you're starting to see it happen. And I think there's more to come.
So, you know, I was excited to get you on, obviously, to talk FTX. You've been doing the rounds. I know you've been talking about this to death. So I do want to talk about many other things happening in the market, but how can we not talk about FTX? Obviously, you were a major investor in FTX. You were a spokesperson. So first and foremost, you know, how are you doing today, right in this moment? What's the latest? What's going on in your head? Frame it up for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. You know, just to be transparent and open about it, I was an investor in FTX International and an investor in FTX US, and I was a paid spokesperson. And so those are all facts, and I'm living with them every day. This was not one of my good investments. This was a bad investment for a whole host of reasons. Luckily, I'm fortunate that this particular investment, both the ones in FTX, the accounts that I had in FTX, with millions of dollars in them, and the ownership of FTX US, was not in a fund that had other LPs. I owned it 100%. We hadn't made the decision to diversify yet. We were waiting to see if FTX would go public and how regulation was going to come forward before we put other people's money at risk. This was all my money. So I'm thankful for that. Of course, I hate losing money, but it's not going to change the way I operate or what I'm going to do tomorrow morning. I'm going to continue to be an investor. This is not about crypto. This is about bad policy, bad regulation or lack thereof, if you want to put it that way, and some very weak compliance management. That's what's happened to these companies. It doesn't change the potential of what crypto is going to be, but certainly it was a hit. There's no question about it. And, you know, it's embarrassing for me, obviously. So much due diligence had already occurred. I mean, if you look at the cap table of who was investors in this company, it's the who's who of financial services. And so I'm one of them. We're all embarrassed. We feel foolish. But luckily, when I look at the long term, thank goodness I make more good investments than bad ones. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair statement, Kevin. I mean, have you spoken to Sam? I believe you had a conversation with him right after the fall. Do you speak to him on a daily basis?
Not on a daily basis, but again, let me be transparent and clear about what occurred. I was in Dallas, Texas, doing a keynote, remarkably, to a group of graduating cohorts of engineers and others at the University of Northern Texas. I think that's where it was. We got out of that speech, and that actual discussion that day was about how disruptive crypto was, so it's kind of ironic. I'm at the airport waiting to take off, and I get a call from one of my team members who is looking at the situation saying, hey, listen, Kevin, why don't we buy FTX? If it's really on the desk for sale, if CZ is going to buy it for between $6 and $8 million, why don't we buy it? And why can't we be part of that? Because remember, FTX had prior just done a round at a 32 billion valuation. And this was before any of this nefarious stuff was flying around. It was the Thursday. And so it wasn't clear to me whether it was 6 or 8 billion that they were looking for to clear the demand, or if you want to call it the run on the bank. But I needed to know the real number before we could syndicate that amount of capital. That's a lot of money. And so I called a contact there that I knew worked on the balance sheet, and I just got a voicemail, so I left it with that individual. And then maybe 2 minutes later, Sam called me back. And I said, Sam, look, I know you're going through a lot of pressure right now with this cash call and the whole thing with Binance and everything else, but I can't do anything with this or get involved unless I know what the number is. And he said, the number's 8, not 6. I said, okay, that's all I need to know. And that kind of a number, believe it or not, is not that big for sovereign wealth funds. And so, and I work with them in the indexing business, so that's when I started making calls. And there was a fair amount of going back and forth that afternoon. We delayed takeoff from the runway because I didn't want to lose signal. We were dealing with some sovereign wealth funds agents at that time. And then Gensler went on the air about 3 o'clock, and he made it clear that there was a hammer coming down. And the minute that occurred and the regulator was going to get involved, and then these nefarious claims and allegations started, that option of syndicating it with sovereign wealth was no longer an option for obvious reasons. And so I didn't call Sam back. I texted him back, said it's not going to happen. And that was the end of that. And then over the weekend, the alleged hack occurred. My accounts have 0 in them. There is no accounting records there. They've been scraped. I talked to many other institutions about those accounts over the weekend. We were talking with our compliance departments and our lawyers, obviously, and that's where it stands today. Obviously, and I want to make a comment about this, this is a tragic story, not just from a financial collapse, but it's a human story. It's an unbelievable story. It's probably going to be told, for years to come, and the chapters haven't even been written yet. We're not even in the first chapter yet. Everything's allegation and insinuendo. We don't know anything yet. And so I'm trying to keep an open mind about it. I'm not happy. I don't like losing that much money, but it doesn't change anything that I'm going to do tomorrow morning.
Yeah, so just a few other questions, because you've obviously seen it. It's gone viral. The clip where you said that you would still perhaps back Sam Bankman-Fried in another, should he resurface? The question is this, because
that question was taken completely out of context. I understand how it was edited. That's fine. But let me explain what that was about, just to clear the air. I made a comment for years now in the context of entrepreneurs, and particularly broadcasted by Shark Tank for 14 years, that I am not scared of investing in entrepreneurs that have had catastrophic failure, because I find, both for men and women, that the sting of failure really motivates people to figure out what they did wrong and not do it again. That's experience. That's what it is. Now, when that interview was taking place, it was at the beginning of the whole shakeout and the rumor mill of what was going on between Binance and FTX. And so, I didn't know the situation. Now, obviously, Sam is currently not investable while he's under alleged investigation. But it's so no, I wouldn't do that because I wouldn't be allowed to. But the point was, we were talking about whether or not I would invest in entrepreneurs that have failed. And the answer still is yes. But obviously, the conditions have changed. Remember, this story changes every hour.
I mean, I'm relieved to hear that answer from you, Kevin, because obviously it's not just a question of failure. Obviously, people, failed businesses have come back and done better and greater things. But he took billions and used it for personal use. So it's a question of ethics and not just a failed business.
Nobody knew at that time that had occurred. And it's still being investigated. So look, I've said to people, look, I'm sorry. Obviously, that was taken out of context. But I just want to make it clear here. I do invest in entrepreneurs that fail. No entrepreneur gets it right every time. So, to me, it doesn't change who I am or what I do or how I support entrepreneurs. But no, I don't investigate in people that are under investigation. I can't, and nor would I. It's now up to Sam Bankman-Fried to clear his name. He knows that. He's going to have to do whatever he can and come out and explain what happened. I want an explanation. Every investor does. Are you kidding? Like what?
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
I guess my question, because you obviously made a name for being the shark that cuts through the BS. You see through the BS of others. So the question is, what did you miss with Sam? How did you miss those red flags? And I know it could happen to anyone, but what was the error on your part? How did you miss it?
The truth is, and Danielle, I have to be honest about this too, I don't get it right every time. I don't. I've made thousands of investments. They're not all winners. This one was just, all of us that have talked about this, all of us on that cap table, and we've all talked to each other. We're stunned. We're just stunned. But we don't have any answers yet. And so I would actually like to know how this one went down. And there's lots, if you just go online and see the due diligence that was done, it's alleged. Again, I keep saying alleged because the stuff that goes out there on the internet, a lot of this stuff is garbage, but it's alleged that Bain was hired to do the due diligence for Tiger. I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than Tiger. And so I'd like to find out more about that. I'd like to find out more about the other members on the cap table. We all look like idiots. And, I'm the first to admit it.
I mean, you've been taking a lot of heat. I'm sure you've seen the headlines from everyone from Nero Rubini to BitBoy, or
no, it's not BitBoy. It's not BitBoy. His real name is BitBozo.
Okay. Well, I guess what would you like to say to the haters? Because everyone's coming out of the woodwork now, right?
Yeah. Look, I understand how the internet works and how to, people want to say inflammatory things to get more users and rile up I'm a big boy on this stuff. I have to be honest with you without sounding trite. It's all noise to me. It's just Rubini, that's just noise. This BitBozo guy, that's just noise. I don't care. But at the end of the day, it's got to be facts. The whole thing has to be driven by the truth. And we don't have it yet. So I'd like to get the truth. That's what I'm after. And, there's no question. All of the paid spokespersons, including me and Tom Brady and Seth Curry and Giselle and right down the list, we're all being sued. During that process, we're going to get to the truth. When litigation scrapes to the truth, and that's what's going to happen. Look, I would have rather not been involved in this, but it doesn't change anything I do, and it doesn't change my policy of transparency. And if people want to be crazy online, I've been watching this for years. I mean, it's noise, and I tell my whole team it's noise. I tell my kids it's noise. You have to have thick skin to do what I do.
What's Sam like as a person?
He's an interesting person. I remember 2.5 years ago when I met him. We met one evening at, I think it was Bitcoin 2020, maybe it was 2020, I can't remember, either 2020, probably 2020. And we decided that weekend to do lunch. We went to Milo's, I remember it was going to be a half-hour lunch. I think we were still together 3 hours later. We were discussing many aspects of the FTX platform. I was particularly interested in it from a compliance point of view, whether was it strong enough to support institutional compliance, which is what we spent a lot of time on. One of my team members was there, one of his, and that's when the relationship started and the discussion around becoming a paid spokesperson occurred. And that's all going to come out. It's all fact, and I'm sure it's in my calendar with a date. And then I ran into him other times at different conferences, at his conference, various events. He's an interesting individual, and if this, depending on what turns out to be fact, he has a tremendous challenge on his shoulders right now. Everybody wants to know what exactly happened, and the only way he can clear his name and let me be clear about this, is the facts, the truth, the timeline, it all has to come out, and it will. The one unique thing about this situation versus other financial collapses and calamities and disasters, everything that occurred here is on the blockchain. Every single transaction is recorded. Now, you may not know who the wallet is, who owns it, or who stole it, whatever these allegations are, but every single transaction will be able to be found. And so there's no hiding from it. It's going to come clean.
Do you have hate for him now?
No, I don't hate people. I don't hate people. Particularly in investing, you're taking a risk every day. And depending on what the truth is about this, I'm very disappointed. And I wish I could be the perfect investor. I'm not. And people that tell me they have a perfect track record are so full of BS. That's just not true. It's impossible to get it right. This was a big hit. Thank goodness it was my money and only my money. I'm so happy that our protocols forced us to keep it that way. No one that I invest with is touched any of this, and we wouldn't have put this into any other structure because there was no policy yet. We were hoping for policy and bills to be passed, and secondly, at the end of the day, we didn't understand yet whether FTX itself, both the U.S. and the international, would ever go public. Where's the liquidity? Because none of these companies have any liquidity. So I don't want to put that burden on anybody else. The timeline's unknown and kept changing. So I personally took the hit, and that's fine with me.
Do you think your colleague Mark Cuban has said he, fully expects him probably most likely to go to jail. Do you think that will be the outcome, and is that the justice?
I have no idea. I tell people to remember 2008, 2009, a financial crisis, 10, 20, 100 times bigger than this one. I didn't see a single banker go to jail. There's a difference between being a criminal and being negligent. And, maybe sometimes they're both the same, but I'm going to wait for the facts to come out. And if someone says to me, he's going to go to jail, I have no idea if that's going to happen. Nobody does. We have to find out what the facts are. So I don't like to speculate. I'd rather just find the facts out. And I could really use a dose of facts right now, and so could everybody else that's on that cap table beside me. We really want the facts now.
I want to go back to how I started this interview with BlockFi. I know you've said that you expect the dominoes to keep falling here, that more carnage is to come. Will this speed up regulation coming, Kevin? Are you hopeful for that at least?
I am. I really am, because let's just talk about an exchange. I will never put any money into an unregulated exchange ever again. The first thing I did, we have a policy in my shop that we don't just have diversification on portfolios, we have institutional diversification. We don't put all our capital, our cash, our investments in one institution. We want multiple exposure to different institutions because you never know when an FTX is going to happen or a Bear Stearns is going to happen. I've seen this movie before. This is not the first time. And so we have a large diversity of where we work with and who we work with and what institutions that we do business with. But the first thing we did with the remainder of our crypto assets is move it up into Canada under the OSC order in the BitBuy wallet, which is owned by WonderFi. 100% compliant, scrutinized by the regulator there, proof of assets, no leverage on the accounts, no intermingling of accounts. All of that really matters, and that's where I think is the safest place to be right now. I'm not going back into an exchange that isn't regulated ever, and I think many institutions are going to take my position as well. I want to know with certainty that the regulator, because remember, we've got rules for exchanges. The NYSE, the NASDAQ, all kinds of exchanges around the world are already regulated. Why don't we just put the same rules on a crypto exchange? We don't have to wait forever. Meanwhile, there's a turf war amongst regulators in the US, and we're getting nowhere. But now the pressure is extreme. And I've had my chance to talk to the people I work with on the Hill.
Right.
Now that the midterms are over, after January 3rd, watch what happens. There's going to be a lot of pressure to bring down some regulation here.
I'm just trying to understand, why the hang up, why this is taking so long. I just would love to know what's really behind that. Is it just really bureaucracy, paperwork, they're lazy, or is there another motive?
let's just talk about one bill that should be so simple to pass. It's not that complicated. I mean, we have a whole bunch of bills, but one that I think is the easiest to get done would be the Stablecoin Transparency Act, which only contemplates one thing, a stablecoin. And so, the policy being proposed says that any stablecoin issued, if it wishes to be regulated, which you would want now, would have to be audited every 30 days to make sure that each token or unit was backed by a single US dollar, and that was in a reserve, or a blend of treasury bills duration less than 12 months, which is exactly how money markets work. So that's not very complicated. Both sides could agree on that because it would make the US dollar through a stablecoin the default payment system worldwide. We use it for oil and other commodities. Why wouldn't we want to use it for this? So for me, getting that done. Now you've got a decision at regulator level. Should that be regulated by the Treasury that actually regulates the dollar, if you want to think of it that way, or should that be through the SEC or a different legislator that takes care of payment systems like credit cards, etc., or do the states have a say in it? So all of these things have to be worked out. But you would think if you got legislators on both sides of the aisle really working hard on this, they could figure it out and just get that one thing passed, just that one thing. That would be very useful. And then go on to these various digital commodities acts that deal with Bitcoin and other tokens. But I would also add something else for you to think about, Danielle, that I've talked to many institutions about. And this is a conversation that's been going on the last few trading sessions last week. It's clear to many people now that you can get exposure to digital tokens and currencies with a matter of only 4 or 5 different positions because they're so interrelated. They're so correlated. So these 10,000 tokens, I think the majority of these are going to go away. If you want exposure to Bitcoin, you can do it with a position in Bitcoin itself, maybe some Ethereum, maybe some Polygon if you want a level 1 on top of payment systems of Ethereum, and maybe one other if you wished. But you don't need to hold 20 positions. And so I think there's going to be a concentration on where these assets are stored now and what is actually held. Certainly, we don't need 32 anymore. We're going to reduce down significantly, but we're going to keep our position on. But we're really culling through the portfolio now as we move it all up into Canada.
Right. And that's also, I remember from past talks with you where, you liked betting on various cryptocurrencies because, like you said, you didn't know which one would be the fastest horse at the time. So from what I'm hearing from you, that mindset has changed for you as well.
No, I'm still making investments. I mean, I just took a position and missed them, which is Charles Evan Chung's new team that he pulled out of Facebook. That's a very interesting platform. That really speaks to financial services. So I'm willing to back new teams, no question. But I don't need to have 32 positions. I'm going to consolidate down. I'd rather have maybe we go. We had that debate this morning just before I came on the air with you. We were discussing this and deciding, where we transfer it from, how it's going to be held. Because in Canada, there's only 17 tokens permitted. That's it. The regulator there has only approved 17. And so we have to go within the context of that. But then we get the benefit of a regulated exchange with all of the transparency and scrutiny that regulators provide. I feel much safer in the BitBuy platform. And WonderFi is a public company, so they have to report to the regulator as well. So I'm good with that for now, but I won't have more than 17.
I want to switch focus here, move away from crypto. A lot of other good stuff to talk about with you. I'm curious to get your insights, Kevin O'Leary. With the tail end of the year remaining, are there reasons to be optimistic on the market as a whole, given this China wildcard now?
Well, the China wildcard has been a wildcard every 90 days, if you notice, and it's really around the China shutdowns. And this finally the people can't take it anymore, and I understand it. I mean, the basic problem, let's call it what it is. When you go for a vaccine in China, they're just injecting chicken soup into you. They don't have a vaccine. And they should really solve that problem and sign up with Pfizer or Moderna and get the same herd benefit that we found in North America and other countries. This viral story is true. People watching the World Cup in China got a dose of no one wearing masks. 100,000 people in a stadium, no one with a mask on. How's that possible? when all they know is masks, because those people are vaccinated. All those countries in the Middle East, everybody's 100% vaccinated practically. And so they don't have that concern anymore. So the vaccine works. The Chinese should step up and buy it and use it. And I think the supreme leader, or whatever he calls himself these days, is going to figure that out, or he's going to have a real revolution on his hands. Now, meanwhile, that does put risk on the market in a whole group of different ways. And we all have to deal with that. So I think we're going to be in a trading range while this gets resolved. And I think, obviously, we're watching the Fed, probably another 50 basis points. There's a lot of back and forth on this. And so for me in the market, I'm being very cautious, moving more into high quality names that pay dividends, that are, energy is still good. I mean, it's getting you want to be boring right now. You want to be large cap S&P, special situations work, private equity works, but it's a lot more work than it was a year ago. You can't just buy anything and expect it to go up. Media stocks have been slaughtered. Meta stock, I mean, that's a disaster that occurred there. A lot of the tech is really being scrutinized for PE compression. So it's not easy. We're working hard. We have money to put to work. And we have these discussions every single day. I mean, it's really tough. But I think we're going to be stuck in a trading range till we really understand what next year's earnings are going to look like. Estimates are coming down. Nobody's getting it right. Consumer over this weekend looked okay. Yes. So it's not that bad yet. So nobody really knows. You've got to be cautious.
Why do you say just okay? Because I was going to bring that up. Consumers spent a record $9.12 billion this Black Friday. I don't have Cyber Monday stats yet. Online sales for Black Friday were up 2.3% year over year. Why just okay? This sounds pretty
and that's a good number.
Me.
That you're talking revenue, but you're not including all of the promotions that are occurring in the middle of the income statement. There's a lot of promos, a lot of sales, a lot of tweaking to move inventory. So what I'm concerned about, and why I bring caution to that excitement around these record numbers, is it may be because there was so much promotion going on, it's going to show up in squeezed margins. And so at the end of the day, when you look at retail, you want to see what happened to the margins. I don't think they're going to be as healthy as they were in the middle of the pandemic because of the amount of promotion that was occurring. Remember, we've got 3 extra sales days. There's also a challenge on some inventory items. Clearly, the supply chain issues around tech and semiconductors still are going to put pressure on some items ordered now, may not get delivered on time. A bunch of stuff like that, but mostly we haven't seen the margins yet. And my sense, and I watched for this right through the weekend, I got hit just like you did with thousands of emails about get 20 off, get 30 off, get 40 off, get 50 off, buy one, get one free. That was not present last year.
Another point of interest, Kevin, buy now, pay later payments increasing 78% compared with the past week as consumers obviously are grappling with high prices and inflation. But isn't this a red flag that more and more consumers are flocking to these buy now, pay later services?
Yeah, it's a different form of the same thing. If you run up a credit card balance, you're paying a fortune in usury fees of 18 to 21%. It's no different here. I mean, it's just my attitude, and I tell my kids this, it's just pragmatic advice. If you don't have it, don't spend it. Don't let any of these ideas or structures take advantage of you, because once you're paying over 18%, interest, it's really hard to pay back that principal. So, and look, it's a free market. People can do this. There's lots of innovation in payment systems, but it's always around the same idea. Spend what you don't have so we can really screw you on interest down the road.
You mentioned Powell before. Just want to get some more thoughts on you on the Fed. As you said, the markets are pricing in a 50 basis point December move. Could the Fed chair be looking to stress to bring the labor market into balance here? What are you expecting from Powell?
I think he'll do 50 bips, but I don't think he'll stop his hawkish stand. He just doesn't know or have enough information yet about what's happening. He's got the toughest job in the world. Everybody hates him for one reason or another, but he has to watch the China situation. He also has to decide, how much pressure does he want to put on the domestic economy? And he doesn't have the right signals yet. There's still inflation in many different sectors. And so you want to look at energy and food and wages, obviously. And we're still in this unusual situation, close to full employment. It hasn't really slowed down. The one factor that I would, take into account, and it's a big part of my portfolio, real estate. I think we're already in a bear market in housing, not in rentals, but in housing. And so part of what this CPI number does not incorporate is a true current read on housing. It's a backdated number, and it takes another 6 months to show up what I think is actually happening. Here in Miami, a market that I stay in touch with, we have slowed in increases of purchase for any kind of housing. It's flattened, and the amount of time places around the market is extending. But what hasn't cracked yet is the rental market. It is razor hot, like smoking hot, really hard to rent anything here, and rents are up over last year. And so that continues. And so that may be caution coming from the actual buyer saying, I think I'll rent and see if there's a correction. But it's extremely hard to get housing here on a rental basis. But to me, that could be an opportunity. I'm looking at residential now to start buying portfolios of houses at much cheaper prices than they were even 6 months ago, and doing that old classic stink ball bidding. I have one of those this morning too. A developer approached me with an idea. I liked it. We'll probably do something there. So there's always opportunity in the market. Just because it's going down doesn't mean you don't have a chance to invest. I'm always trying to find those opportunities at decent pricing.
I guess as we wrap here, Kevin, given all the carnage and drama in the crypto space, has this opened up your heart back to gold in any way? I know at one point you were selling all your gold positions to be in crypto. Is there a change of heart here for?
No, I hadn't. I hadn't sold all my gold positions. As a matter of fact, no, it has warmed me up to gold. I mean, here we are, the 1700s, starting to look a bid. There's a bid underneath it. There's no reason not to have a 5% weighting in gold in any portfolio, whether you want to use the GLD or pay for storage of your bullion. You can do both. I do both. But it occurs to me, and I have to be honest with you, I think the carnage that's going to happen in the next couple of weeks on digital currencies is going to be a buying opportunity, and I will certainly be buying some Bitcoin and some Ethereum, and probably two others. That was what the team was doing this morning, looking at because every time one of these players goes bankrupt,
right,
you have to look at it from 2 points of view. You're getting rid of idiot management out of the market, because these guys always blow up because of leverage. They don't know how to manage leverage. You'll find out, I don't care who the player is, when you actually dig into what happened, they blew their brains out on leverage because they didn't have the experience of this kind of volatility. They'll never get financed again, and that's good. They get cleansed out of the market. So then the quality of the teams that are remaining keeps getting better every week. And that's why in a nascent industry like this, in the first inning, you have to think long term. It doesn't change my mind about the potential of crypto and payment systems like stablecoins. I'm still a believer, and I still believe in a decade it will be the 12th sector of the S&P. But along between now and then, there'll be opportunity and volatility. So I probably won't catch the bottom, but I got to admit, Bitcoin is starting to look pretty interesting. So I'm just going to hang in there and probably start putting on some positions the next couple of weeks. There's a lot of tax loss selling going on right now. This is a year where you got to do it.
Yep.
So most of that is over by December 15th. So you're going to tiptoe through the tulips on disaster crypto. Savor the flavor into the early parts of December. I think it gets worse before it gets better.
All right. And Kevin O'Leary getting a little warm and fuzzy around gold. You heard it there, folks. I heard it. Last thing, Kevin, in case I don't speak to you before Christmas, anything at the top of your list this year?
Yeah, I have to admit, I'm very intrigued these days with watches again as investments. It's really crazy this year.
Yeah.
My best returns, even after the 28% correction of my watch portfolio, which was the average of most of the major brands, it's still my very best asset class over the last 36 months. And I don't think this stops. I mean, I'm still putting on new positions. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but it's the best asset class I have. And it's a liquid asset class, not that I sell, but in some cases you can't take down a one-of-a-kind piece and then blow it out in the aftermarket.
Right.
The brand won't work with you anymore, but still that portfolio is just killing it. And we've seen some stabilization in the big brands, the big liquid brands like Rolex, Patek, Audemars Piguet. Journe on fire again. You can't 2-year waiting list. So, you know, there's always a bull market somewhere, and right now it's in watches.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. The Rolex, you know, even if you go into a store and you beg them to buy the display, they won't even give it to you. There's just no watches to even be bought, as you say, Kevin.
While I was in the United Arab Emirates, I had a unique opportunity to have lunch with the world's largest watch collector, the Lebanese man. I'll just give you his first name, Claude. If you know watches, you'll know who he is.
Okay.
His collection's worth 1.1 billion. He has 27,000 watches, most of them one of a kind or series 001. Which watch was on his wrist? A 22-year-old FP Journe. When I saw it, I knew immediately what that watch was. That watch alone is worth about $3 million. And he was walking around the UAE, it's the safest country in the world. But and we sat for 3 hours and talked about, I've never met an individual collector with so much breadth in his portfolio. For him, it's also his best asset class. And
oh, you must have loved that.
It was crazy. I'm going to post something on it. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine to be in the presence of the world's and I thought I was a whale in watches. I'm a nothing burger compared to this guy. A nothing burger.
And here I am. I'm trying to even just get the Moon collection from Swatch, and I can't. So.
It's crazy. It really reminds you in life. There's always somebody bigger, bolder, faster, richer, better than you. And that's a good way to live, remembering you're always serving somebody.
That's right. Amen. Kevin O'Leary, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for this roundup. Thank you for your transparency.
Always a pleasure. Take care. Bye-bye.
And thank you for watching. We'll have more incredible content here on the Daniela Cambone Show. So be sure to sign up at danielacambone.com. We'll see you real soon.
Opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the contributor and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Stansberry Research, its parent company, or affiliates.